Good day, everybody. How's it going out there? This is my first review that I'm recording on a brand spanking new machine. So hopefully the latency is fine. Hopefully the settings are all okay and that I won't have to record this again because that would be sad and that would make me sad. But for now, let's not worry about the future. Let's worry about the present, where we're worried about the future. So the bigger story here is that one of the top 8, one of the big 8 furry conventions held a convention for the first time since January 2020. I wrote an article on this. It's in a link in the description below. Today we're going to go over that a little bit, but I'm not going to cover too much of what I went over in the article. Instead, I'm going to supplement it with our favorite pastime, which is looking at convention statistics and where I think they'll go from here. On the article, I talk about the situation which is occurring. MegaPlex was the convention that was held. It was held on the first weekend of August, and it had an attendance rate of 2,889. Of 80, basically 80, it shed 20%, or it had 80% of what it was in 2019. So it had some shedding going on. Because of the situation that we find ourselves in, which is this. And unfortunately for MegaPlex, conventions are more like buses than they are motorcycles. It's hard to get them to stop and to go. They're not like a little party that you hold with your family and you can go, well, you know, it's getting too dangerous out there. We have a small gathering of 10 people. You know, let's cancel it out. When you grow these conventions to the sizes of being in the top 8, they become rather sizable, and canceling becomes rather difficult because people have paid money, they've made arrangements, and on top of that, we're not just dealing with furries here when it comes to conventions, we're dealing with state governments, we're dealing with local governments, we're dealing with hotel contracts, we're dealing with so many different parties that it can be very, very difficult for a convention to change its plans on going ahead when stopping means that you're going to tick some people off, and not just the furries. And especially in a state like Florida, which government is barely even dealing with the school situation, like in a tangible manner that's not causing a big kerfluffle, as it were. Obviously, there's still a lot of things going on, and I mentioned in the article that it very much is kind of like the mission accomplished style of politics, where, you know, some people in power want to make, you know, pretend like everything is going okay and everything's going fine, but it might have seemed that way, and it's kind of like the worst. Like, and I don't usually speak with this candor about numbers. But I mean, look at this. Like, the first wave goes down, right? This is like the worst case scenario of like, psych, you know, like look at this. This is Florida's numbers. It goes down, it goes down, it goes down, it goes down, it goes down. It's like, you thought I was dead. It's like that Psycho from like a horror movie, right? It's like, it looks like it's dead. It's like, it looks like compared to where it was over here, in and out is backwards. I got to remember because I'm on camera. So this is left, this is right, right? Anyways, this is really high and then it goes all the way down and it looks like it's gonna die. And this was like coming into summer, and this is where everyone's getting out and everyone's doing everything because they thought it was safe to go back in the water, but it's like dun 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 dun, and they're like, no, it's not safe to go back in the water. The numbers like went up to an exponential curve that, in Florida's case, went up higher than its original curve. In the article, I mentioned that tourism has something to do with this, and that makes logical sense. If you think about how people behave, right? You know, there's a situation where people want to get out, right? Because they basically lost last summer because we were still kind of like recovering from the first wave, and we were like, we don't want to keep spreading it because no one's vaccinated yet. But, you know, people still kind of went out and did things near the end of the summer anyway, and that kind of, you know, led up into the first wave. But then the second wave is like everyone's no holds barred because everybody's like, hey, we have vaccines now, everything's okay, look, COVID's dying. And then it's like, You thought I was dead. Oh. So really, really, really bad. Like, it's basically the worst case scenario as far as like this one goes. The reason I say, as I said, it's tourist based as well, is that Hawaii actually has a similar style of chart, even though Hawaii is known to be a blue state, right? It doesn't have any Governor DeSantis or anything like that. It is known to be a pretty blue state. Yet, its curve, like Florida's, is already above where it was last year. This is probably because when you have a high vector of tourism, a lot of people coming in, a lot of people going out, but more importantly, a lot of people coming in, especially since they want to get out and do things. So that's sort of what leads to this kind of scenario. And Florida is a big tourist state too. You got Disney. It's all Mickey Mouse's fault. I mean, our convention is small potatoes to what Mickey Mouse brings in, okay? You don't mess with the mouse. Ha-ha, you sure dang right you don't mess with the mouse. Ha-ha, little COVID never killed anyone. Well, actually it did. Like a lot of people. Oh, but anyways, money! We gotta keep the parks open. There's a shark in there, Mickey Mouse. I don't care! I own Spielberg now! I own the entire Star Wars franchise! That's not Spielberg's. Well, whatever! Anyways, so anyways, Psycho Mickey aside, there has been a report of one person having COVID, so if you were at MegaPlex, please get yourself tested and ensure that you do not have it. Because even people who have been vaccinated can catch COVID. Can catch COVID. Unintentional alliterations aside, basically, I put it like this. If you are a Pokemon nerd, having a vaccine is sort of like having done double team like 5 times. Like actually, I think it's closer to 50%. It was 5 times. Now it's more like 2. So if you've done double team a few times and increased your evasiveness, right? But also it also develops a resistance to the high power moves. So it's like thunder, right? Thunder's coming at you. You increased your evasiveness, and you're a water type. But you've also what's amnesia is a special defense thing. I think it was. I haven't played Pokemon in a long time, but I remember some of the things. So basically, it's like having amnesia on you and double team on you to protect you from Thunderbolt. I don't know why I'm explaining this in Pokemon terms. I'm probably confusing more people than actually the actual regular just explaining the numbers. But we're furries, so we've got to do things convoluted, I guess. But anyways, what I'm saying is, having the vaccine is better than not having a vaccine. Having a raincoat on in a rainstorm is better than not having a raincoat on in a rainstorm. There we go. That's much simpler. That's much simpler than me nerding out about Pokemon moves. Okay, raincoat's good, and that was probably on Twitter, so it's probably not even my own thing. I like the Pokemon one because I came up with it, I guess. But I've heard the raincoat metaphor somewhere, so that's a good metaphor. Basically, if you have a resistance to it, you don't have an immunity to it. Just because you have a raincoat on doesn't mean you're not going to get wet. It just means you're less likely to get wet. And if you do get wet, it's going to be a lot less worse than if you went out there with just a plain old cotton shirt on, right? Which will soak up the water. So that is sort of the situation that we find ourselves in. So a lot of people are going to be watching this because they're going to be worried about future convention numbers. Or they're going to be worried about people's safety and those two things, and businesses and things like that. So there's conflicting interests and stuff like that. But how will it impact our future gatherings? There are certainly people with different ideas about how things move forward. I've seen extroverts who are like, I've gotten vaccinated, F be all to anything else, right? I'm going out, I'm tired of it, I'm tired of seeing in here. The extroverts are not okay? For someone who is a recluse, I can actually deal with not going out and doing things because like I'm a recluse, okay? I look at nerdy things, I read nerdy things, I do stats and stuff like that. I don't go out too much. I don't worry about gathering with other people as much as extroverts do. So I'm a person who's like, well, I can sit on my hands and wait this out and record things as they happen, and keep an eye on things, but I'm not gonna jump into the shark-infested waters if I don't have to, if I don't feel obligated to. So that's just something I can do, because I don't care about, like, I care about conventions. I know their importance. I've been to them. They're nice, and for people, I've seen the impact and positive impact it can have on their lives. Absolutely, and I understand why some people are really, really rearing to get back and going, because it really is a social connection for many people is a necessity in life. Myself, I'm talking to a camera onto a YouTube. That's enough social connection for me, right? The new technology allows me to hack and go, hey, look, I'm being social when I'm not actually being social. I'm sad. Anyways, what I'm saying here is that, you know, people are going to have to do this. And at the end of the day, I will put this as my entire operating philosophy. Everybody has the right to assess risk and take whatever risks they deem necessary, and try not to do it at the expense of anyone else that you care for, or for strangers. But at the same time, there's the issue of being able to assess risk. Your ability to assess risk really depends on your ability to detect BS, right? Your ability to detect things, which is why I give you numbers and give you statistics that are given to me. I have to rely that those statistics are correct. There are people out there who are going to say, well, these numbers are all wrong, they're all fabricated, everything's fabricated. You can't have that kind of nihilistic thing, because here's the thing. You get a question wrong on a test for a teacher, the teacher doesn't give you a 0, right? If there's an error made and that error is corrected, it doesn't necessarily mean that you should just burn the entire thing because it's all meaningless anyway. Nihilism. You know, humans make errors. We correct errors. We do our best to adjust. So that's my operating philosophy. It's always how I've operated. And Bumbiatol, who try to go, oh, you can't believe anything. The 5G towers are causing us to change into kangaroos. I wish. Anyways, that set aside, we have something I had to dust off. So now brings us, after this rambling ruse rambled, now is the kind of moment you've all been waiting for. I get to dust off the chart that I haven't updated since 2020. January 2020. I'm going to be updating my 2021 numbers for the first time in August 2021. Isn't this great? I had to like basically remember how this thing was set up, which is sad. It's not that difficult. It's not a tricky Excel file at all. But we're going to show it to you now. So you'll notice, the first thing you will notice is big black cells with white numbers in them. Those represent the corona hiatus. What I guess I would call the corona hiatus. And it's like, well, the algorithm's going to demonetize you if you keep saying corona. I don't get money for this anyway. Corona, 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 die corona, do, 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 do. Anyways, God, that video was a long time ago and it's still cringy. Anyways, so we have the numbers here. So we have the 9,348. We have a situation here where you'll notice on the column here, the cell that's currently selected is the MegaPlex number, and that is their actual number. In 2019, they had 3,617 guests. In 2021, they had 2,889 guests. This is 80%. So how I did this is I scroll down here, and I created a number down here called the Corona Recover percentage, which is at 80%. So currently, people are jumping back in the water quite strongly. For every one person, or for every 5 people that showed up in 2019 before coronavirus, 4 people showed up. So only 1 in 5 decided it was too risky and decided to stay home. So, in order to get the 2 other conventions that are slated to happen this year in the Big 8, I have made projections based upon that coronavirus recovery number. Basically, multiplying the last time it was open, which was 2019 in both cases, by the coronavirus number, which is what this symbolizes here. The dollar signs, by the way, means that it's a static cell. So if you go up here, you'll notice that it's also the same, but the column changed because it's looking at a different column number. That's a little Excel nerdery for you if you need to use that in the future. It's very useful. If you've ever seen a dollar sign, that's what it means. So basically, you know, the cell here is always going to reference this cell here instead of moving up and down every time I like copy paste stuff. Useful. Anyways, so with that being said, Biggest Little Fur Con went from 5,804 to 4,636, and Midwest Fur Fest would go from 11,019 back to 8,801. Meaning that in the year 2021, who would have thought no conventions got above 10,000? Not surprising, because technically everything in the black should be 0, but I decided that would not be fair for statistics states, because it's not really the convention's fault, and it's not like anyone, I can't tell one way or the other if they were going to have guests or lose guests or anything. So literally I just kept it flatlined, basically, and that helps with the chart as well to make it, you know, smooth. I don't know how to do fancy things with this Google chart here, with like saying, well, this line is, that these lines here are like all basically due to that. But you can see 2020 here, so it's like, yeah, 2020 was kind of a S show. Interestingly, like this little gap here between 2018 and 2019 for Midwest Fur Fest was actually a thing. It's like it kind of flatlined a bit. So it was kind of flatlining before coronavirus happened, because the delta between this and this was actually not too much. So we're going to see how the corona recovery goes. These numbers is only based on that one data point, but I had to put some number in there to kind of get things going. I don't know if you could have seen that chart from before. Yeah, you could kind of see it. It's kind of big. I can see what you see now at the same time I'm showing the screen, which was something I couldn't do before, so now I'm second guessing myself, which is great for a live performance. Anyways, what you can see there is that, and so what we have here is, those are the projected numbers for 2021. So there's a lot of factors here that can change these numbers substantially. If the scariness that is this, oops. If the scariness that is that, if these exponential curves, and this is just Florida, but like, and it's occurring, the exponential curve is starting everywhere in the United States, just some are more worse than others. As I said, it's like tourism, it's a mixture of tourism and political, you know, action or inaction. So basically, you have these things here. These can be impacted heavily based on certain things. As said before, if we do suffer casualties, heaven forbid, I really, 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 really don't want to freaking have to deal with that. But it, you know, it's statistically, it's definitely not, it's definitely a chance, and you know, it's obviously something we have to prepare for. But if we do have people who are lost, who lose their lives, of these 2,889 people who attended, if we do have people who lose their lives, depending on how many, which Dr. Wolverine, as I said in the article, had projected, had guesstimated 6, right? 6 to 10. may lose their lives who are unvaccinated, right? If there were this many people at the convention, that's how many he guesses would lose their lives. I'm guessing he's making that estimation based on half of America, half of the United States citizens, and even half of Florida is sort of fully vaccinated. So if you were to take this number and divide it by 2, and then multiply that by the mortality rate of unvaccinated people with coronavirus, you would get your sort of final number, and I guess that's where he arrived to his 6 to 10 people losing their lives. But if that does happen, what I note here is that by the time Biggest Little Fur Con rolls around or Midwest Fur Fest rolls around, there's going to be people who are going to be hesitant, a little bit more hesitant, because then it really is going to be, is it worth the risk of losing the life of themselves or their friends? And that really becomes a question, right? To some people, it's not going to be a question. It's because they need to get together with people. For others, it will be a question. As I said earlier, everyone has the right to assess their own risks and to take action based on their risk assessments. But some people are better at risk assessment than others. So always keep that in mind. And so we could have a situation where, people lose their lives, and then if that's the case, I suspect that the corona recovery value down here will go down, right? And by the way, the interesting thing about risk assessment is that putting it in numbers like this actually helps in certain ways. Obviously, this number is not scientific in any way. It's 1 point. But basically, as time goes on, what we suspect is that these numbers will come back up to meet what they were in the before times. So if I can come up with some sort of way of measuring, like how these are doing compared to that, if the number is going down, if people are feeling that it's more risky, this number will go down. This number will go down to 70, to 60. It'll be an index as to how people are feeling about going back to conventions right now. And if that helps you with risk assessment, if other people feel that it's risky, maybe I shouldn't, right? Or you can just say, heck with all those people, I'm gonna go anyway, right? That's the whole point. Math and science isn't supposed to get in the way of your individual thought processes. It's not supposed to obscure it. It's supposed to help you make better decisions as an individual. If you decide that this is a bunch of hooey, that's your ability, that's your thing. If you want to use this as a metric to go, how are people feeling about going back? Right now there's about 80% in the recovery zone, but with the caveat that people had set up their plans to go to this convention well before this curve started to go up. If this had happened a few weeks earlier, the corona recover percentage might have been lower than it currently is in this thing, right? Because people might have said, well, it's not worth the risk. I'm going to, try to get, refund or anything like that. And by the way, Denver, as I said, is coming up pretty soon. That's the 9th largest convention. They have said if you attended MegaPlex and you test positive, which is mentioned in the article, they will basically postpone your registration until next year. So they want to make sure that if you went to any gatherings or conventions that you get tested, and if you do show positives, to please let them know, and they will work with you to move things to next year. There was one furry who said that they think they tested positive, but they want to go anyway because they already paid for tickets and airplane tickets. I think airlines are going to help you with that as well. It's a liability thing. If you test positive for COVID and you tell an airline, hey, look, I tested positive for COVID-19, I'm canceling my trip and I would like a refund, please. And they go, no, too bad, so sad, you're going to pay. It's okay, fine, I'm getting on the plane then. and you guys are going to be liable for what happens. And they're going to be like, oh, no, we're not. It's like, yeah, you are. like if you, like, you know, you can get, like, it can, yeah, just get sassy with them. They'll see the light. But basically, not legal advice, by the way. I'm not a lawyer. Don't tell them Aru told you to sass them. I don't need a bad reputation. I'm a businessman, okay? I do business. I think the safety of your passengers are important. You better give me a refund. Anyways, so yes, just please, you know, do better for other people. Just make sure that if you do test positive, to try to make arrangements with the convention that you're going to. Say, hey, can I move my thing to the next thing? You know, I think that even non-Denver conventions will definitely work with you on that if they're reasonable, right? I think that most people want other people to stay safe. All businesses do. They want customers in the future. Like if they literally help you with that, they'll be like, hey, we want your customer service in the future, and we want to keep our other customers safe so that they could fly with us in the future. Please do not come into our plane with COVID. So that being said, as this number goes down, as if hopefully things are not as bad as they may seem, and you know, people do not die from this from the COVID here, and people from MegaPlex don't die. They might just get a handful of sick people, but nobody becomes infirm, nobody becomes sick and passes on, which is hopefully the case. Then hopefully we can see this number go up. And at some point, this number is going to go over 95%. And on that day that this number goes above 95% or 98% or something like that, I don't know what the numbers are yet. I've got to see how. I need more data points before I can make a conclusion onto what fully recovered actually means numerically. But once we have that number, then I can go, okay, at this point it seems like that. So this number would be over a certain percentage, and then we'd have a full year of having conventions without any like random things, shutdowns going on, or any of these kind of situations. So I'm glad to be doing a video about convention statistics again. It's something I like to nerd out about. It's something I like. And obviously every time we have one of the big eights go, I do like to talk about that. Obviously I could do it for all the big and little conventions as well, but obviously that would be my full-time thing. And obviously the fandom, I think, needs a broader thing than more specialized focused stuff like this. But I think that numbers like this do provide. I like numbers. Numbers provide me comfort. I like numbers. They're fun. Numbers are great. You have a bunch of nerds getting a bunch of numbers. But anyways, get this chart out of my face. I've had enough with numbers. I've had enough with numbers today. Get out of here. Anyways, thank you very much for watching. We will keep you in touch and keep in touch with that. Denver and Philadelphia are coming up, so please do all you can to stay safe out there, but have a good time if you can. Mask up, vaccinate up, no licking people's faces. Shut up! Shut up! No, you promised me you wouldn't mention that. I'm sorry, don't lick people's faces. You think I licking faces was bad out here? You should have seen what I did in the room. Don't want to know. Don't want to know. Don't want to go on a rant about that. But anyways, do what the scientists say. Don't do what the scientists do. That's all I've got to say. Do what the scientists say. Don't do what the scientists do. Why has science become a religion? This is what I got away from. This is what most secular people get away from a religion for. It's so that they don't. It's because they had it with people who go, oh, I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to judge you on this, but I'm going to but I'm behind things. I'm going to be a snake. I'm going to do all these things that I told you not to do. This is why people are like, science is no different than religion, even though it's supposed to be. I promised I wouldn't get in a rant over this. Anyways, probably none of you know what I'm talking about. I'll put a link in the description below so you can take a look at it. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Have a good one. Kick that like, kick the subscribe button, kick a comment in the comment section. And stuff. I need my end card. There we go. I hate you. Why'd you have to bring that up? Taking it out of context. This is cognitive this is cognitive dysfunction. No, we see what we see. Don't gaslight, dick.